After Abel's murder, he wandered eastwards and his descendants created cities, civilizations, and music. We have given birth to this world, but one thing is missing: the fear of God, violence on earth, greed and indulgence, darkness has descended. People worship their own gods, stone idols. In this darkness of the sun, the moon, and one's own pride, a dynasty of Seth is growing, a dynasty which still hears stories of Adam, of the God who once walked in the tiger, whose the voice echoed in the leaves. Enos is born like an ordinary child, but the soul is extraordinary. As he grows up, a question arises in his mind: where is God? He hears stories from his grandfather Adam. He hears stories from the light in the Garden of Eden. And every time Adam says it, we lose him. Enos's eyes: I am in tears. He asks, can I have her? Adam's eyes fill with tears. If you call out with all your heart, maybe he'll hear you. Enos spends her nights in restlessness. He goes alone into the forest, looks at the sky, and asks, are you there, Batizki? He remains quiet. The sounds of the birds, the rustling of the wind, everything teases him as if saying, you are alone. One night, when everyone is asleep, Enos goes alone to the top of the mountain. His soul is already weeping, broken. He falls on his knees and says, Hey Lord, I don't know you, but my grandfather knew you. I don't feel you. I can do it, but they have seen your movements. Will you see me too? This is his prayer. This continues for an hour, then all night, and then he forgets to eat until the next morning. His eyes are dry and his throat is hoarse, but he doesn't stop. He knows that if he doesn't stop now, if I find it, I will probably never find it. In the middle of prayer, Enos has a vision. He sees on the earth men are at war, women are crying, children are hungry. There is a fog that is spreading everywhere. The soul is being covered. People laugh at their sins, lying, stealing, killing. It has become a common thing now. A voice resounds. These are the same humans whom I have called my, and look what they have become. Enos is horrified. Lord, can you make them? It will destroy me. Another voice comes. When someone calls, I will answer, but see till now. No one called. Enos says, then from today I will call until you answer. I will not stop. On the third day, when Enos was completely exhausted, a quiet voice came to his heart. A voice descends that cannot be put into words. I am here. She trembles. Lord, you really go, and he falls to the ground, and tears flow from God. He says, your call reached me because you called with your heart and not with your mouth. When people turn from their sins and truly seek me, I will find them. Enos asks, Lord, can I live for you? Will you use me? The answer will come that you are the seed from which a generation of callers will be born to its people. Tell me the time is changing. My name will be called again. Enos has changed since that day. He told people, his brothers, cousins, to the Pedios. He started to call them. He says, you all are sleeping, wake up and see. Heaven is still listening. Some people laugh, some despise, but some stop, listen and cry. And the day comes when I write for the first time, then the people began to call on the name of Lord. Genesis 4:26. It is only this is not a story, this is the story of the moment when a man broke the silence of the sky, when a soul heard the voice of God in the midst of the roar of sin. Like Enos, are you today? Will you call out? Will you challenge that silence? Will you walk towards that light, from which an entire generation can change? Because even today God says the same thing when someone calls out to me. Enos called out to God and the heavens answered, but the answer ended. This was not the beginning of a war that was going to drag him into a war that could only be fought, can be seen through the eyes of the soul, because when a soul awakens, then the evil is stirred up. When a man bows on his knees, then the evil powers. Now, Enos wasn't the only one to call out one day, he would call out to heaven and earth. This part is the story of that battle of the soul defeated, the journey from word to victory. Since the day Enos heard the voice of God, the word started appearing differently through the eyes. Now it is not just visible from the viewpoint of the body, but also from the viewpoint of the soul. What used to seem normal earlier now seems like a sin. The music that used to be sweet now seems like a sin. It seemed that he was hurting the soul now. People started calling him changed. Some said this, some spirit has possessed him. Some say he has gone mad, but Enos knew this was madness. No, it was an awakening. One day he gathered his family members and said, "We are living life. We are living, but our soul is dead. We are eating, drinking, laughing, but the soul is crying. Have you ever heard its cry that arises from within you?" Some would bow their heads, some would laugh, but that day, for the first time, someone started thinking. Enos's father said, "Son, stop all this. People have started fearing you. What do you want?" Enos said, "If my bowing down is before God, then I am ready for everyone's laughter." There was discord in the family. There was no food for a few nights. Mila Enos was thrown out of the house, but he did not cry because now he has to face every challenge. "In my pain, I could hear a call. The one who will give up everything for me is my true self. The servant will be Matthew 1:7 time." One day, there was an old woman in the village who had been sick for a long time. She came to Enos and said, "I have seen you from a distance when you silently look towards the sky. It seems as if you are talking to another world. Is that God still there?" Heard Enos say, "If you call today, he will answer," they said together. "I prayed and tears rolled down the eyes of that old lady," she said. "I have been praying for years. I did not feel so light." For the first time this news spread in the village. Enos's prayer. A miracle has happened. People slowly started coming. Some wanted spiritual peace, some wanted freedom from disease. But Enos made one thing clear to everyone: "I am nothing. He is everything. I am just a call. You also become one. He will listen. Where there is truth, there is lie too." Sir raises up the village priests and merchants who were running their shops with false gods now. Enos became jealous and said, "This is an insult to our gods. Stop it." If you have ever called out to God with all your heart and found only silence all around, if yes, then this story is for you. If you have ever sat in the dark and asked, "Do you listen?" If you are still wondering, then wait, this story will take you through that silence to an answer. Because this is the story of the first person who saw God for the first time while living on earth. I called you with all my heart, dear friends. If this story makes you think about something, if this touches your heart, then you can like it if you want. And if you feel that others can get inspiration from this, please share if you want to know more such spiritual journeys. If you want to be a part of, then subscribing is completely your choice. And if your heart desires, please write in the comments that I too want to meet God like Enos. I am ready because this is not just a story, but a call from the soul. Let's begin now. This was the time when there were humans on earth, but their souls were asleep. There were voices, but there was no prayer, there was life, but no yearning for God, and then one is born. The soul that cries and calls out, and then breaks the silence, brings joy to Adam and Eve. It has been decades since he was expelled from the world. Now his sons and grandsons are on earth. People threatened him, threw stones at him. Once even his hut was burnt down, but every time he would rise from the ashes and say, "I will be erased." But his voice will not be erased. He would cry at night, "Lord, when I called you, you came." Now these people are destroying me. Why are you silent? And Then a voice came, "Listen carefully, these stones are not hurting you, they are giving you shape." Now Enos was no longer alone. 5 people, then 10, then 50 people began to attend his meetings. They began to worship God by gathering in the fields and forests and playing some musical instrument. No idols, only tears, prayers, and faith. One day, there was a young man who was a thief. He came and said that I have committed theft and violence all my life. Can I also be forgiven? Enos said, Isaiah 1:18 says, "Though your sins be like scarlet, they are as white as snow. You will call out, and he will forgive you." That day, the young man cried bitterly, and from that moment onwards, his life changed. He later became Enos's assistant. One night, Enos had a dream of a black chaya comes to him and says, "Do you think that you will change the world? These people I will leave you like you have left everything. You will die alone in your dreams." Enos trembles with fear. He gets up and shouts, "Lord, who is this?" Just then a loud sound comes. A light appears and a voice says, "Don't be afraid, I am with you. This is a trick of the devil. Hey, don't back down." After that day, Enos never let fear come near him. Enos was one day I was sitting in prayer when a word rose in my soul. Jesus had not yet come, but my soul is among those who search for me with their heart. He started writing short sentences. People began to come to listen to him as if he were a prophet, but Enos was. I often say that I am not a prophet. I am only a call. You too should call. You will also answer. Now a new wave has started in the villages, valleys, and mountains. Hearing about Enos, the children were taught that when someone hurts them, tell God this was not just the change of one person, it was the change of an era. Once again, Enos went into solitude and looked up to the sky and said, "Lord, when I called you and you came, when everyone protested, you remained quiet, but you did not go. Now I ask you, this work will stop here. The same voice has not come from the sky again. This call has not been heard for generations now. You will go away, but your soul will live on in all those who call upon me." Only the soul that dares to descend into its inner wilderness can hear the voice of God. Maybe Enos' soul was restless and he prayed, but there was no answer. The nights were getting longer and his heart was getting suffocated. One night, when the sky was covered with clouds, was covered with a blanket and his eyes were wet. He fell asleep, but this sleep was not only of the body. This was the beginning of his descent into the depths of his soul. He dreamt that he was in a dark room. He is trapped in a cave and there is a small light in the distance. That light slowly grows and a voice is heard saying, "If you really want answers, then go to the place where only I am there." The dream was broken, but a fire had been lit in his heart. He understood that now he must go into the forest before the sun rises. Enos sets out with only a stick in his hand, a small sack containing dried fruit, a small water skin, and his favorite Bible lay at his feet. He was oscillating between an unknown fear and utmost confidence as he moved away from the village. He felt as if the sounds of the world were moving away from him and the silent call within him was getting louder. It was pitch dark in the forest. Strange sounds of dry leaves were coming from all around, the rustling sound, the hoot of an owl, and sometimes the sound of animals, but the scariest of all was the silence that was speaking within Enos. Opened the Bible and read, "You give me knowledge and give me wisdom, for I believe in your teachings." Psalm 1:16. He cried and said, "Lord, teach me who you are and who I am." The next morning, when he sat on the river bank, his past started floating before his eyes. The things she had not told anyone about, one incident which started haunting her again and again when she saw this scene with her younger brother. He had lied to him and he had suffered loss. That thing was hidden inside him, but the forest silence brought him alive and he cried out, "Oh God, do you remember such sins as well? Reminds me of those whom I want to forget." Then a voice came in his heart which said, "The one who confesses his sins is healed." The meal was over, but Enos had. He decided that he would not eat until he got an answer. On the third day, his body started trembling. There was a haze in front of his eyes, but his soul was awake and he felt that God. Sometimes breaking the body touches the soul. He shouted loudly, "I am ready to break." "If you want to make me that night," he suddenly encountered a wild animal, probably a jackal. He trembled with fear but did not run away. He held his stick tightly, and he closed his eyes and said with trembling lips, "Though I pass through the valley of death, even if I go, I will fear no evil, for you are with me." Psalm 23. 4 animals went away, but Enos fell on the ground, and tears started flowing from his eyes for the first time. I realized that faith can overcome fear. The sun was setting. Enos was on a high. I was sitting on a rock and thinking, have I failed? Have I told God somewhere? At the same time, an unusual fragrance spread in the air around him as if nature it became quiet, and then a light glow appeared in front of her. No shape, no words, no, just an invisible presence touching the soul. It felt like it was floating. As if someone was saying, "I am here, just learn to listen." Enos felt that the soul. It is necessary to get away from the noise in order to hear. For the first time in his life, he heard God from within. He was not giving orders, he was filled with love. He wrote, "My soul is no longer afraid, for the one who created me now speaks within me." That day, Enos found some dry wood lying under a tree and he started a fire with it. Lit the fire and sat around it. He had another dream. This time, he was in a temple and his hands were empty. He was telling the Lord that he had nothing. Then from the top of the temple, a light descended and said that the one who has nothing is the most worthy. He woke up and realized God looks at his devotion, not his preparation. On the 7th day, he sat on a stone. And he said loudly, "Lord, I did not forgive others. That is why I too am broken. I hid my wounds so I couldn't heal. I now accept all my pride, my greed, my fear." Then the wind blew and the leaves started flying in one direction. He felt as if his soul had become lighter. On the 8th morning, he returned by the same path by which he had gone, but every tree, every stone, every sound now seemed new to him. He said in his heart, "I am in the forest. I went alone, but now I am not alone. He is with me who is invisible and is always with me. The forest shows me my own reflection, scary wandering, but still, precious God broke me to make me new. Now I live in this world, I will return, but I am not the same as I was when I left. Now I know God is in the noise, no, it speaks in silence." In the next part, Enos returns to the world, but now he has to face opposition, misunderstandings, and new struggles of the soul as he is not will he be able to keep that fire of the soul alive? The solitude of the forest is no longer the same as before. Where once the shadows of fear and doubt hovered, now a divine peace flows. The storms that used to rage within Enos seemed to have subsided, but this was no end. It was not, it was a new beginning, because the soul once touched by God that night would never be the same again, as Enos spent hours on his knees trying to hold back his tears. But instead of those tears, there was a new light in her eyes, a new light of hope, a new light of grace, and a new light of hope. "O God of purpose," he said softly, "will you now show me the way? This is his." The question was no longer the plea of a hopeless person, but the cry of a disciple. God has answered the one who is willing to walk on the path, not in words, not in words. In the thunder of lightning, but in a gentle touch within you are no longer just a person. You are now my servant. Your life no longer belongs to you alone, it is a part of my work. He will become a machine, and at that moment Enos realized that he no longer lives only for himself, he has to live for the forest that was once his escape had become his rebirth place. As Jesus said, "If anyone is in me, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all has become new." 2 Corinthians 5:17. Enos now was a new creation. His spirit was reborn. His thinking, his vision, even his gait were different now. As soon as he came out of the forest, people's eyes turned towards him, and the sparkle in his eyes, his face had changed completely. He gave the first promise in the village that "I am God, the one who's alive, listens, he answers, and he changes." People are stunned. Enos is left, who was once drowned in his own doubts, now speaking like a prophet. People listened to him, but not everyone believed him. Some made fun of him, some ridiculed him, some expressed disbelief, but there were some who felt his words in their hearts. He lit a fire, and one of the old men said, "You are the same person who had gone into the forest." I recognize the face, but the soul seems different. Enos smiled and said, I am the same, but now only in body and soul I am new." In that village there was a widow who she had not spoken to anyone for years. Her son had been killed in the war, and Enos was angry and went to her door and said only this much, that he knows your grief, he is yours. Tears also count, and that night the woman prayed for the first time in many years. It wasn't a miracle, but it was the first heart he returned to God. Enos, now he began to go from village to village and teach. His message was simple: God lives in repentance, prayer is power, it never goes in vain, peace only comes from within, children and youth. All the elders started gathering around him. He did not read any book, he did not read any temple. But wherever he sought, there was a meeting. One night, Enos had a dream about heaven. He saw a door, and there he heard the same voice which he had heard in the forest. "Your work is complete." It did not happen. Many souls are still wandering. I showed them the path, and I realized that now he cannot rest. His soul now starts feeding the hungry souls of others. Every day was not easy. Many times he had to stay hungry. Many times he had to endure humiliation. The religious gurus made false allegations against him, but he neither got scared nor backed down, and he did the same. I believed in the words that what is for me is greater than the world. 1 John 4:4 his. The result of the service was that spiritual awakening began to spread throughout the region where there was discord. Peace began to happen. Where there was fear, there was hope. People began to talk to God directly. They realized they needed a living relationship, not a mediator. Enos' most famous quote became, "Unless you fall to your knees, you must stand up." This word spread from village to town. Now Enos is not only a preacher, but a guide. He began to prepare young disciples and taught them the truth, not only in words, but in life, conduct. Many children considered him like a father. He called each one by name and lit a flame of light in everyone's life. One day, he called the whole village and said, "Today we will celebrate the day when we came to know that it is not only the body but the soul, and that soul belongs to God." This has become a festival which is celebrated. People started calling it Prakash Parv. Every year on that day, people would do silent prayers and self-introspection. Eno's fame started spreading far and wide, and he started receiving invitations from neighboring states. He made long journeys, climbed high mountains, crossed barren plains. Wherever he went, he found the souls awakened. One day, a disciple asked the guru, "Why are you facing so much opposition and pain?" "How do I stay calm?" Enos said smilingly. "Because I am no longer the one who lives in the jungle. I am the one who has been changed by God from within and who has found love. Only love can give it." Part 4 does not end with Enos. It is the end of that journey. The middle is that which is coming out from the soul and reaching the souls. It is no longer a life, but the movement has been formed. And to know what happens next, we enter part 5, where the soul rises to heaven, and Enos knows the secret that only it is revealed to those who walk in the Spirit. When a spirit senses the presence of God, when truth touches him, then his life is not just his own. He becomes a lamp which a spring spreads light in the darkness, satisfies the parched souls of Enos. Life had become like this when he heard the voice of God in the silence of the woods. And if he repents of his sins, that moment not only changes the direction of his life, but also the spiritual direction of his time. The pace also changed, as wherever he went, a wave of self-awareness ran through the people. Earlier, they were cruel and selfish. Now, they started caring for their neighbor who had a tongue in his mouth. God's name was no longer on their lips, were hymns. The fire that ignited in Enos' soul, others were also jealous. People used to say that they saw her crying alone in the forest, but when he returned, there was such a glow on his face that it seemed like that of an angel. His life. Now it had become not just a lesson, but a living example. One night when the sky was full of stars and there was peace on earth, Enos fasted again. He knew that the soul's next journey would be over. The time has come to go deep inside him. He sits on a rock, closes his eyes, and tries to express his soul. Suddenly there was a throbbing in his soul, as if heaven. Something echoed in the silence, and then a voice came, serious and sweet. "Enos, for whom you are. I forgave them and they cried, but now I want to show you something else, a fire. The test that will burn your faith." Enos replied tremblingly, "O Lord, my soul is ready, but you know my weakness. Your path can be difficult, but I will not go away from you." This conversation is not just about words, it is from the depths of the soul. He knew that no normal day was going to come now. The very next day, a horrific incident took place in the village. News spread that the northern tribes alleged that Enos' teachings had destroyed the gods have been insulted and the people have rebelled. They are trying to capture him. The village elders were sending warriors, and the people trembled with fear. Many people said, "Enos, run away, hide, they will kill you." But Enos was calm, his eyes. "I had no fear, only faith in God," he answered. "If my body, even if I am broken in their hands, my soul will be safe in the arms of the Lord. I am ready to die for the truth for which I am living." After hearing his answer, people were shocked. They realized that this was no ordinary person, but God's chosen one. The Spirit of God prompted Enos to go to a particular cave. The cave was on a high peak inside the forest where a prophet had earlier meditated there. Enos decided that he would live in the cave for 30 days on only water and prayer. Only her voice echoed, sometimes singing hymns, sometimes praying, sometimes shedding tears, sometimes being silent during During this meditation, she had a dream in which she saw a golden staircase leading to heaven, on which people were climbing, but some people suddenly fell down. He asked, "Lord, who is this?" The voice of God came, "Those who follow you, some for their own selfish interests, and will fall because of pride. But those who are truthful will reach heaven." This is the dream. It was not just a vision, it was a glimpse of the future. Days passed in the cave, his body, he became weak, his eyes became sunken, his lips became dry, but his soul became more and more ignited. He was now praying not just for himself, but for the entire generation he wanted to change. Sometimes he used to say, "O Lord, my soul cannot live without your presence. You can give me strength, but destroy my desire completely, my only desire. If your wish comes true, then one night a voice will come when you will unite my voice with yours, then you will see me fully." This was the moment when Enos realized that God-seeing is not done only with the eyes, but with the complete surrender of the soul. On the 30th day, when the village, some people reached the cave in search of him, what they saw was beyond words. Enos was not there. There was a divine light in the cave. There was a sentence shining on the wall. "Whoever follows me will not walk in darkness, but will find the light of life." John 8:12. An old man said he did not die. He was God. His life has now become a story of heaven spread out within the cave he. As the light entered the hearts of the people, they returned empty-handed with a spiritual awakening. Even after he left, Enos' teachings, his prayers, his words returned with them. Her disciples who remained alive narrated her stories to the people in every village they went to. A young man weeping and repenting and dedicating his life to God says, When I listen to Enos' story, I feel as if my soul is bathed in light. The speech was no longer recorded in books but in hearts. New prophets arose from its testimony. There was a spiritual moment and the flame of truth never went out. Time passed, centuries went by, but the cry of Enos' spirit still lives on as someone sits alone in the woods and cries when some call out to God in the silent nights, while others seek truth to forgive their sins. But when he repents, Enos is there. He is not just a name, he is a spiritual consciousness. It is not a memory, but an inspiration. Even today, when someone says, "O Lord, forgive me," then he becomes part of the inheritance that Enos watered with his tears. Come close to the Lord, then he will come near you. Jacob 4:8. Amen.